Okay, awesome. I think we're online. Just let's do a quick sanity check and then we can kickstart. Awesome. Perfect. Hi, hello, good evening from anywhere of the part of the world. My name is Shantanu. I'm a part of the developer relations team at Zentester. Here today with me is Leon. He's also part of the developer relations team. We are here today to kickstart and jump into Zentester, explore what it does and the superpowers of Zentester as well. So yeah, over to you, Leon.
Hi, everybody. Like Shantanu said, I'm Leon. I'm a developer advocate over here. You may recognize me from season 6 of Love Island UK. Just kidding. Um, but let's see, how many people do we have in the audience right now? Oh, wow, it's jumping. Yeah, I mean, really what I wanted to talk to everybody about today is Zencoder's new end-to-end testing feature, which is really great for when you're either designing a UX for the first time or redesigning or getting some new features up into an existing UX that you want to make sure doesn't break the rest of everything, plus works the way that you envisioned it, right? Now, commonly, end-to-end testing is a pretty manual process, and with good reason. At the end of the day, you want to make sure that your product is as human friendly as possible. But for a lot of stuff that comes with new feature building, there's the bigger your product gets, the more buttons there are to click, the more interactions there are to make sure are still working the way you expect. And so that's what we want to sort of make a little easier on the development effort, because on top of that end-to-end testing, there's actually a lot of sort of repetitive manual coding that goes into piping down those workflows. And what you're going to see with Zencoder is that a lot of that is abstracted away now so that you can just focus on the redesign or that new feature. And then, and then have Zencoder as that collaborator right there in the IDE, making sure that you're moving fast without breaking things, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen. I want to
Sure.
show you a little something.
Mhm.
Yeah. So if anybody wants me to zoom in on this at all, just let me know. But basically, I have my Zencoder open in VS Code here on the left, and I've got
Um, Leon, just a sec. Can you please zoom in a bit?
on
Let me know.
on which one?
On the VS Code.
Yeah, buddy. How's that?
Yep, sounds good. Looks
Okay.
good.
So guys, this is a web page that we actually spun up through Zencoder for a Zencoder summit happening in Zagreb, Croatia. Now, this is just a dummy website. It's not actually happening unless y'all demand it, in which case I will run that by the powers that be. But as you can see, there's quite a bit of interactions and linkings here on this landing page, right? What's included? Partners, obviously ticket purchases, right? The thing is that our design team and our marketing team isn't too happy with this techno brutal style that we put together for the first round. So I would invite any suggestions about what kind of style might be better suited for our awesome Zencoder Summit happening in Zagreb. Any suggestions?
Let's people. Let us wait for people to comment in.
Oh, yeah, there they are. Okay, let's see what we got here. Listening from Canada. Yeah, Glenn or Craig or Hirata. What kind of style? Oh, Cyberpunk for the
Cyberpunk.
Max. Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. I got Cyberpunk. Everybody good with Cyberpunk? How does that sound? Let's see what
Yep,
that looks
sounds
like.
good.
All right. Let's shake it up. So let's shake it up. Do a Cyberpunk theme for. You know what? For the whole page. Okay, let's see what happens. You know what? Actually, I want to let's see, we have a couple of subpages here. So I want, no, we'll turn on the agent. What I want is actually, let's just do no, you know what? Yeah, let's do the whole website. Screw it. Let's redesign. Any specific Cyberpunk? What was that latest Cyberpunk game that came out? Okay, we'll just do regular Cyberpunk. Let's do it. Okay, and as that's just gonna flow along, we can watch it. We can watch it work, but you can also feel free to comment about what your own UI UX work looks like, what your own end-to-end testing flow works like right now, what you're hoping to get out of this webinar. I think you're going to see a lot of what you're trying to get out already, but if there's some cases that you want to talk about, then we're here for that. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, I thought I lost audio for a second. So, okay, well, while any comments do or don't roll in, I'm just going to talk about what's going on here, right? So, right now, we're assessing basically what we have. That's what Zencoder is doing. So, it sees that we've got this techno brutal theme, which I don't know. I mean, it's in the eye of the beholder if you call this techno brutal, but that's what Zencoder thinks is techno brutal. And now we're kind of going a piece at a time, right? And it's also noticing that it's using a couple of different frameworks to actually apply the CSS. So right here, it's trying to standardize how we're applying that CSS. And we're going to let it do its thing. But I don't know how many of you have used, like I know Glenn, you are up in the chats. I know you use Zencoder a lot, so you're really familiar with this sort of flow. But I kind of just wanted to highlight how you can see it's very thinking first, right? So with Zencoder, as opposed to another platform, I think you're going to find that where other platforms rush to code gen almost immediately, here there's a lot more reasoning that happens as a first step. And part of the reason for that is as frontier models get more sophisticated, they also get a lot more hungry for context and a lot more hungry for tool calls. And so as you have a longer conversation with any model, right, through any intermediary, through any agent, every conversation, every new message, right, is that message plus the entire conversation history before that. And so what you want to do is get everything out of your first message that you can, so that you're not then repeating that entire conversation history in your next message. And so when you start reasoning first, you just get a lot more, I guess, you get a much higher chance of getting exactly the code gen you need if you do a lot more of that reasoning up front instead of that correction later with subsequent messages. It is taking a little longer than I'd like it to be honest, to redesign this. Yeah, I don't know why this would be so complicated for it to update the hero component to use the existing Cyberpunk styling system. Because if we actually look at the styling system, let's jump into the styling system. Oh, there we go. Hello, buddy. Change generated. Okay. Beauty. Beauty, 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 beauty. So yeah, obviously a ton. So this is using Tailwind, as you can see, right? For those of you that are familiar with Tailwind. Thank you, Glenn, that Zencoder has been good at planning and solving issues. That's what we try to excel at, right? Is that collaborative like planning step before you're laying down code, because we really want to avoid tech debt as much as we want to generate new code. So hopefully that's apparent in like the actual flow that you see in the chat window on top of everything else that goes on behind the scenes. So we did the hero. It's still a little slower than I'd like to. I mean, we're still just at the hero here. I mean, full disclosure, we had some hinky stuff going on with our pods this morning that I know that like some of our pods are getting restarted right now, which might have something to do with this slowness, but it doesn't super duper matter. I'm just gonna pause this and show you what the end-to-end testing looks like. So I'm sorry that you didn't get to see right now your cyberpunk version of this website, which I know everybody was dying to see. Hirata, I see you're using PHP Storm for 2 months, mostly. Okay, generating tests. You're probably using our unit test agent, Hirata. Yeah, our unit test agent I love because I hate writing unit tests. So end-to-end testing is kind of an extension of that, depending on how much front-end work you're doing. But I'm just going to show you so first what I did, like originally this was just like some real clean, what's that like go-to UI style that pretty much everybody uses nowadays?
Tailwind.
Yeah, no, Tailwind's the framework, but what's that? What's the components that, I mean, I use them for all my personal projects, but I just can't remember what they're called. God, Vercel V0 leans really heavily towards them, but it's basically a library of
Shard,
components. Yeah,
Shard
yeah,
CN, something
yeah,
similar.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Sure. Originally, it just looked like your basic, like very clean shard CN, and then we were actually able to redesign this really fast in a couple minutes. When I wanted to do this techno brutalist, so it grabbed everything, right?
Mhm.
Major CSS files, index.css, it basically handles it all. Then when that's pretty much one and done, we went on to the end-to-end process, right? Now I will kick off an end-to-end flow right now. And if it hangs, if it's slow, then I'll just show you what it looked like when I ran it for the techno redesign. And this is really all I have to call, like if I want end to end everything. But right now, I'm really just curious about, I really want to drill down on ticket purchases. So that's what I'm going to do. And honestly, while that's working, I'm just going to show you what that result looked like, and then we can come back to this to keep watching the flow. And it was actually pretty slick. Like same thing here, right? Like it wanted info on ticket purchases. So it's looking for the context. It found a spec that I wrote with the unit tests, right? So now it wants to know what I want to run, right? In this case, I'd already generated end-to-end tests with it before. So I just run the existing suite. Doing a little bit of configuration behind the scenes to make sure that some of the delays are realistic for like as if a human was running for it and for pages to load and stuff. This is using Playwright behind the scenes, by the way. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with Playwright, but if you wanted to plug in Selenium or even Cypress, then you can actually be my guest. It just comes with Playwright out of the box because it's the best at running at the headless browser and then giving you snapshots when it's done. We just like Playwright. It's pretty neat library. But anyway, yeah. So it runs that end-to-end testing suite that it wrote, by the way. It wrote that end-to-end testing suite. And here we have our summary, right? This is what your QA folks want at the end of the day, right? Navigation of the tickets, verification, testing. So I could have tested pretty much any aspect of this website here, and this would have been a much longer generation, which is fine. But when you're just focusing on making a change to one feature or another, then the beauty about this is that you can just call, right? Like you can just call your end-to-end agent and it'll, excuse me, you just call the end-to-end agent on whatever part of the project you want, and it won't start generating stuff that already exists in your project. It won't start overwriting files that where you already have a collection of end-to-end tests, right? It's very good at knowing where to add stuff and where your existing code is already covered. In fact, something that I use the unit test agent for is writing not just unit tests, but coverage specs, right? To make sure that when I hit my like sonar cube in my CI/CD, that I'm not going to get screwed like 30 minutes after I pushed a PR to, and then get a notification that like the threshold of 60% code coverage has not been met by like 1%. It's the most frustrating thing in the world. So this helps with that, obviously, but also I would run this anytime you're making UX updates, just because these are the things that a lot of these things are things that you might not think about. Like you change some stuff in your data model and suddenly the dates might not show properly, but you're too busy thinking about the ticket purchasing part of it that you don't even notice, right? So this keeps you on track. And, let's come back to our chat. Yeah. And here, so again, you can see that it's asking for more input about what part of the ticket purchasing flow we actually want to test. I think it would be rare if you're using some other solution here to get this level of collaboration, because what you'll see a lot of other agents or a lot of other platforms do is just be really eager to generate code out of the box, right? Which in some cases is really good because you can just get rolling immediately for like a prototype or to spin up all the code you want for like a new page. But then when you're trying to be a little more articulate and when you're trying to be a little more exact, especially in the larger code base, then you really want to get the code right on the first time. Not only is that just reduce any headaches, but it just makes smarter use of your inference, right? Because, like I said, anytime you have to start correcting the agent in a conversation, then that's a bunch of context that you're refeeding into the conversation for no reason. And that just gets really frustrating. Or worse, you just push code that you don't need, that somebody on your team then has to go and be like, no, we don't need that in the PR, go and work on it again. So this is really about getting it right the first time. But this is the end result. I mean, I could continue this conversation here, but it's really going to look like a lot like this, right? Because I'm testing that ticket functionality as well. But we could test any part of this website if anybody wants to see testing on any other part of this website. But otherwise, I'll just open the conversation up to understand how this fits into your workflows, where you might find this helpful, where you would want to see something more that you haven't seen. Can I do that, Shantan? Can I open it up to the whole
Yeah,
group?
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So let's do that.
Yeah. If you have any questions, just drop them in the chat. We'll pull up on the screen, and yeah, then we can take it from there. No questions?
All right. Well, in that case, I'll just talk about how I use this. So I'm playing around with like a little social media website design on the side, right? And when I do that, okay, yeah, Glenn, looking forward to it for web testing. So that's the thing, right? Like I use this for when I have like a mobile app that also has a web dashboard, right, to like manage your account. And so what really helps is like, okay, API client, I added an endpoint to both the mobile app and the web client. And the nice thing about React Native applications is that you can actually test them in the web as well. So now I can test that stuff that's going out to both the mobile app and the web dashboard, like auth stuff, like settings pages. The functionality behaves the same across those different devices, across different environments, right? So it's not only for testing, it's not only for like reducing the effort on the feature spec of one UI, but you could also use it like to see how one change affects several different UIs that are all affected by that change, right? So when I make a change in one library, it goes out to the mobile app and to the web dashboard. I want to make sure that it's consistent across both. So that's another really great way to use this end-to-end tester. And especially when I mean, look, on big teams, you just have a ton of ground to cover because you're getting a lot of updates all the time. On smaller teams, it's really great because you just don't have those resources when you're trying to move really, really quickly. to test every single interaction anytime you make a change, right? So the value proposition is a little different for both cases, but it's definitely there for both cases. So if anybody wants to open up like a conversation about how they use end-to-end testing today, actually, I would be really interested. Like for everybody here, is there anybody here that's already running like their own end-to-end testing automated suite, or is it for the majority of people here just like I built a feature and then I just test it manually after it's done and I try to cover everything? I'm also seeing some questions.
Oh yeah, there's a question by Glenn, by the way. Do you want to pick this up?
I've not seen evidence of a benefit of repo grokking. Each new request spends time looking for the code to work on. Yeah. So that is very much related to repo grokking, right? The way that it spends time looking for the code to work on is through that code base indexing. If you're saying that you would like it to be faster, then fair play. I would also like it to be faster, but it also depends a lot on your code base. It's designed, like I said, Zencoder is designed to be really conservative and careful when it's selecting the code to be that's relevant to your conversation. But if you're saying that repo grokking is just like the weight is not worth the trade-off for you, then that's information I'm going to take back to the engineering team. Full disclosure, we actually are looking into a way to accelerate that a lot that I think you're going to see already deployed in the next couple of weeks. We're looking at some major changes to how code-based indexing works, just because we found that some of the stuff that like was the standard, 6 months ago, like vector embedding, like there's just more sophisticated solutions that you can be managed completely on device, right? Where vector embedding, you embed on device and then you send the embeddings to the cloud and then you have to reference the embeddings on the cloud and then come back to your code base. So yeah, there's a couple solutions that I think are going to accelerate that a lot. So the benefit of repo grokking today is that it's basically powering that search that you're talking about, but it sounds like it's a little slow for your taste. So noted. And then from Hirata, I've got so end-to-end can replace acceptance tests from codeception tests. Am I right? I'm not familiar with codeception. Are you familiar with codeception, Shantanu?
No, I'm hearing this for the first time. I'm not
Okay.
really sure what it does. Oh, I think it's a PHP testing framework.
Okay.
Yep. I think it's similar to what I mean. Selenium is for Java and other platforms.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. So E2E can replace acceptances. Uh, I haven't tested it. I don't see any reason why it couldn't,
Mhm.
but you can find out for yourself right now. I mean, if you have a UI that you need some end-to-end testing on, just feel free to call the agent on that and specify whatever specific frameworks you need, and then it'll go from there. It'll probably start by installing whatever packages it needs to out of the box for codeception tests to be applicable, right? Because by default, it's going to lean towards Playwright. But in this case, oh, in this case, honestly, try it out. Let me know. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work. Can this agent from Lyubov Marinina, can this agent check current end-to-end coverage of functionality and propose? Yeah, absolutely. And propose missing cases. So that's what I'm talking about when we're talking about like reducing tech debt. And that's why you'll see that Zencoder will start asking questions or collaborating on like checkboxes for unit tests before writing a line of code. Because a lot of the work that happens in like the first part of that is checking what you already have, right? To make sure that you're not writing redundant code and then filling in the blanks instead of spinning up a new file being like, let's just start from scratch. Are there tips and tricks on how to make it efficient? So I think out of the box, you're going to find that approach, that really conservative approach to not writing code that you don't already need is a huge improvement in efficiency. Um, that said, what I really like doing is the shorter you can keep a conversation logically, the better results you're going to get out of it. So if you want to write like a unit test for or a series of end-to-end tests for one aspect of the website and then end-to-end tests for another aspect of the website, just break those up into separate conversations, right? The shorter the conversation, the more relevant context the conversation has and the less irrelevant context the conversation has. But beyond that, I would just love to know how it's working. I mean, like, what kind of website are you working on, you both? Because it's like end-to-end testing with Playwright can cover such a wide variety of use cases. Uh, yeah,
So
Glenn,
you, yeah. So you
Glenn,
want to take a hot question?
do you feel pressured by GitHub Copilot catching up to Zencoder? Catching up to Zencoder in what respect? Also, like, I am going to throw out there that this webinar is really more about end-to-end testing. So if we could keep the conversation focused on that and then maybe talk about that stuff after, then I'm down for that. But that said, Glenn, multi-file editing. Okay. If you want to talk about other features, I would be so down to talk about other features. By the way, Zencoder is perfectly capable of editing multiple files at a time. We've been doing that for a while already. Maybe I misunderstood what you're saying. But beyond that, does anybody have any questions about any of the end-to-end testing stuff that I just said? Because I just want to stress that, like, this will work in a lot of what I showed you was like pretty straightforward, right? It was just Google Chrome, Next.js sort of app, but I use it in all sorts of environments. We've got people using it with Selenium instead of Playwright. We've got people using it with Cypress. I'm really excited to see how Harada turns out with Codeception. So, yeah. I know we're coming up on time here. Shantanu, is there anything else that we wanted to cover with end-to-end testing?
No, I think we're pretty much on time and pretty much good here. Yeah. Any final notes that you want to put out to the members out here?
Yeah. Look, this is a new feature. It's been working pretty great for us. I've been using it on my personal projects. That said, positive feedback isn't great. Negative feedback or constructive criticism is also great. Like Glenn right here says he plans to use it to add a better testing framework in a Vue 3 app. I would love to know how that goes, right?
Likewise.
So that's like, if it goes great, sweet, hit us up. If it doesn't go great, then definitely light us up in the Slack or the Discord.
Yep.
And then that's something I take back to engineering and we fix.
Yep.
Because end-to-end testing is still the technology in the background is there to make it work, to make it as adaptable as possible. So I know that not everybody is building like a Next.js app, right? So it's for everybody. So if it works for you, great, let us know. If it doesn't, let us know. But I hope you got some value out of this. I hope this is going to really streamline the way that if you're not doing any end-to-end testing at all, or like very sort of like, I don't know, if you're just like spot checking the occasional feature manually after you add a new feature or redesign, then this is really going to help keep functionality consistent down the line. If you've already got an end-to-end testing framework in place, then this is just going to accelerate the way that you write those new tests so that you can focus on that feature building instead of writing those unit tests or those end-to-end tests. So there really is value no matter at what stage you're at, right? But I would really stress, for me personally, as like I've like solo started up like a couple of projects myself, and I'll code until like 3 a.m. and then go to bed, right? And I don't have the time or energy to run those end-to-end tests. This feature is really powerful at scale with like large engineering teams that have thousands of test cases to cover with every redesign, but there's no reason you can't use it as a personal developer to get it right from the beginning, right? And to just keep a consistent standard of quality, even if you're just one person. So yeah, that's my spiel, guys. I hope you enjoyed this webinar. I hope you got something out of it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Once again, thank you so much, Leon. Thank you so much for this wonderful demo. Thank you so much for everyone who has joined in today. See you again in the next one. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers. See ya.